the Ron and Brian Podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome. It is Sunday night. It is 8 o'clock, and it is time for episode 253 of the Ron and Brian Podcast. Brian, champ, in the house. Oh, wrong champ one.
The champ is here!
Brian, how are you this evening, my friend?
I am doing well. It is Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we can confidently say that spring is here in the Northeast of America.
Spring is sprung.
I know that if you're living in the South, it is already the depths of summer. The scalding heat has already forced millions of Americans from the streets into their homes, hiding inside air conditioning for those who are bougie enough to have air conditioning. But here in the Northeast, we like to hold on to winter for just a few weeks longer. But out and about this past weekend, walking the streets of Queens yesterday, was in Hoboken. Earlier today, walked through Manhattan, Chinatown. The city is alive.
Nice.
We are back from the pandemic. It is tourism everywhere. It's great to see. It's great to see.
So listen, like Biden said this week, the national emergency is over. So we should get out and we should enjoy our lives.
If we stay home any longer, we're letting the terrorists win. I believe George Bush said that. Good old 41.
There you go. Should we get things rolling, Brian? Perhaps with a drink of the week?
Drink of the week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud.
Drink of the week.
Pleasure.
Prost.
Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week.
Brian, talk
Yes?
to me about your drink of the week.
My drink of the week, Ron. I know you like to go local. I know that you like to sit there and say, I am in the Philadelphia suburbs. Who locally that I am within a 15-minute drive from may I support? And one of the things that I love about you is that you care very deeply for local entrepreneurs, local businesses. But one of the things that I feel is important is that we also understand that we live on a globe, and that globe is filled with citizens. And those citizens across this globe are making beer. So today I am going all the way, let me hold this up. Boom, Ruby Gems. You're going to say, Brian, you're hinting, but just say it. Say it. Where is this from? I'm going all the way to Sweden.
Wow.
Swedish beer, people. You are looking at Ruby Gems. Let's see if I could get a close-up. Ruby Gems. That is from Landskrona in the Skåne part of Sweden.
Really?
Our good friends,
what part of Sweden is that from again?
That is the Skåne part of Sweden. Our good friends over at Breckeriet, which I'm also probably not pronouncing. You're looking at a gluten-free, organic, a little hazy if you mind me, an organic wild sour ale, which is made with strawberries and black currants,
Currants, I believe.
Black currants, not now, but currants. Part of their Sour Patch series, which means that this beer has been fermented with different wild yeast strains and lactic acid bacteria cultures, coming in at 4.7 ABV. This Ruby Gems beer is my drink of the week.
I liked beer.
All right. Do you like that beer, Brian?
I do.
All right. Take it a second sip right away.
I'm going to tell you something. It's sour, but not sweet. You know how sometimes you drink you order a sour and really it tastes like a soda,
right?
But it's got some fermentation. No. This thing is actually genuinely sour. It looks like it's got the color of grapefruit juice, of pink grapefruit juice. This bad boy is sour. I am loving this.
Good.
Highly recommend 4.5 out of 5. If you can find it in your local brewery, go out and get it. Ruby Gems.
Nice.
Also, I believe I have like a 12-pack of
All right,
beers from this brewery. So I will be featuring different ones in the upcoming weeks.
We look forward
Ron,
to it. Yes.
Ron,
Yes, my friend.
one more time. Ron,
Mm-hmm.
what are you drinking?
So I did not go local this week, Brian, but I am still supporting small business. This from the good folks at Pontoon Brewing down in Sandy Springs, Georgia. This is their Snosberry Crumble. It is a Berliner style Weiss with cherry, blackberry. Oh, look at that, Brian. Black currant. Also, we got kind of a theme unintentionally going here. Graham cracker, cinnamon, vanilla. Brian, would you like to guess what the last ingredient is?
Oh, it's mother. How do I forget this? It's milk, cream, dairy,
Lactose. That's right.
lactose.
It is lactose. This is clocking in at a solid 6.5%. I think even a little darker fruity hue than the one you have there. But let me take a sip and see how it is.
Oh, we are going with some hazy beer. Ooh.
That is pretty good, actually. It's very refreshing. Like, to your point, it's got a little bit of sourness, but you're not, with all the fruit in there, you're not getting much sweetness.
And the one thing that I do love about what's going on at this very moment is that we did not coordinate.
We did not.
No, last week I drank Bud Light, which, by the way, Ron, and I put a pin in your beer. We're going back to it.
Okay.
I would just like to let people know last week I was drinking Bud Light. Obviously, in support of the bashing that they were getting in social media last week, I felt it was important to make a statement and to drink some Bud Light. Bud Light gives you terrible gas the morning after. Absolutely.
You had to learn the hard way, I suppose.
I would like to apologize to all of my coworkers because, I've been told that I have a magnetic personality.
That's what people say.
And in the office, a lot of people come by my office to stop, chat, check in on me, update what's going on in their world work-wise. And the number of people that walked in after I had just unleashed just a foul one. It was awful. And I'm expecting that this beer will not. Ron, walk me through your beer again.
So it's tart. It's got a nice crispness to it, a nice level of carbonation, but not really natural sweetness, but not over the top sweetness.
Interesting. And it's coming from Georgia.
From Sandy Springs, Georgia. Pontoon Brewing, coordinated through our good friends at Tavor.
Tavor, do you have your promo code?
I do not.
Ron's Balls. If you go to Tavor.com and order I believe you have to order a $400 minimum.
I believe
you will receive 5% off if you use promo code Ron's Balls.
All right, well, let's keep things rolling along. It's time for Beef of the Week.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what's bothering you this week?
This is going to be very quick.
All right.
But it is it is about the loss of a convenience that disrupted my day yesterday.
Okay.
Almost was catastrophic, but it was it was rectified, but not in a way that I would like. I brought my laundry in to my local laundromat to drop it off. A lot of people, outside of New York City, I don't believe that the wash and fold service of laundromats is used as predominantly outside in the suburbs. We'll say a lot of people do their own laundry.
Sure.
They have enough space in their domicile to do their own laundry. Well, here in New York City, your apartments are small. You do not have a lot of space. A washer dryer is a luxury that most dream of. A lot of people don't even have dishwashers in this city. So I packed up what was probably, not exaggerating, about 35 pounds of dirty laundry.
Okay.
None of that was feces. That was all just,
Good
clothing. Rolled it down. Oh, no, excuse me. I was carrying it on my neck.
Okay.
Carrying the bag on the shoulder. Walked over to my local laundromat that I've been using since 2020 during the pandemic. Walked in, dropped it on the floor. The woman behind the counter looked at me and did this face.
Like at your laundry or at you?
At me. Direct eye contact, a look of, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you don't have anything to say right now. And then she just looked at me. She goes, oh, yeah, we don't do that anymore.
Oh.
You don't do wash and folds, at which point I looked at them and said, well, at least you do dry cleaning for shirts. And she looked at me and went like this. Oh, no, we don't do that either.
So what is it that they do?
They literally will give you quarters so that you can wash your own clothes in the laundry.
So this is a laundromat that had a laundry service attached to it.
Correct. It is a full service laundromat where you can also, in addition to doing your own laundry in the washers and dryers there, drop off a bag. They will wash it for you during the daytime.
Well, that is
so I brought this 30-pound bag back to my apartment, loaded it up in my little granny shopping cart, which I then rolled through the streets of Rego Park, Queens, looking for a laundry place that still did wash and fold. I went to 2 other laundromats in my area that also said they stopped doing this. I had to literally go, I believe, 10 blocks away from my apartment to find, because at that point I was committed. I was angry, so I was not bringing this bag back. I was not going to be doing this laundry. Right. So I finally found a place that did do it. It is ridiculously far away from where I live, but I will be going back and picking up my laundry there. Right. It's a little bit more expensive than I remembered it should be, but so be it. Beggars can't be choosers.
Got to have clean laundry. That's what it comes down to.
You got to.
Yep.
Ron.
Yes, sir.
What's bothering you?
So ticket fees, Brian, and I'm not even talking about Ticketmaster this time. We have a small theater here in Glenside called the Keswick Theater that there's a concert coming up this fall that the wife and I decided we wanted to go to. So I go online. They don't use
Kid Rock?
Yes, Kid Rock and Ted Nugent.
Travis Tritt?
Yes, all of the above.
Luke Bryan?
I think he may be making a surprise appearance. He's not credited. So we get 2 tickets, and again, small theater, not expensive tickets. They're like $39.50 each, so it's $79 for 2 tickets. And they use a system called AXS, which apparently is the second largest next to Nation. And so they don't call it a ticket fee; they call it a convenience fee for buying your tickets on the interweb. Would you like to guess for 2 tickets totaling $79 what the convenience fee was?
I'm going to say realistically $30 between the two.
$24, $23.94 to be exact. 30% of the cost of the tickets in quote unquote convenience fees.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't get is they actually have a box office, but it's so difficult to go to the box office to buy tickets that you have no other way to get these tickets.
But that's your convenience fee.
I guess.
Well, the other thing is that tickets go on sale usually 10 o'clock on a Friday, at which point most people are working. So they don't have the convenience to rush over to the box office to buy them. So especially in an event where it's not general admission, you want to get there as soon as tickets go on sale. Williams says that AXS fees are absurd.
They are. So that's my beef for the week, Brian. Do with it what you will.
Correct. So the question is, did you buy the tickets?
I did buy the tickets, yes. So, we wanted to see the show, and it's, it is what it is. You pay the convenience fee, and then we'll go.
Yes. I feel like we have some stuff to talk about this week, Ron.
We have a ton of stuff. Should we, as we often do, start with our stories of the week? These are stories that we want to make sure do not fall through the cracks, that we make sure we do discuss them, and we tag them as such. Brian, which one of the many stories we looked at this week is your story of the week that you're bringing to the table?
My story of the week is it's almost a where are they update. As somebody who grew up in the 80s into the 90s when I was still, looking forward to life, Saturday Night Live was an institution, having put out such stars as Billy Crystal, Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, Phil Hartman.
But this time's gotta stop.
I know you were waiting for that, so I just
Okay, thank
figured
you.
I'd take care of it.
You became almost invested in the careers of the stars that were on Saturday Night Live. One of the women that were on, Victoria Jackson, had basically a whole career based on almost a character she was doing, which was this airheaded blonde. And people always said at the time, oh, she's not really, dumb. It's just a character she's playing and whatnot. And she was on a lot of the late night talk shows. But I remember after she had left the show, she tried to keep her career alive, but it really struggled, and then it kind of failed. I do remember her at one point kind of leaning towards the conservative spectrum of the political conversation.
Right, like her and Dennis Miller kind of drifted to the right.
Yes,
around the same
and there's
time.
nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with disagreeing with my perspective. I'm not always right. And I do believe that one of the things that makes this country great is that you do have people with a whole range of beliefs. But Victoria Jackson's in the news again this week after she got up and spoke at a city council meeting in Franklin, Tennessee. She went to the podium and weighed in on the council's discussion about holding a gay pride parade. Now, I could continue talking, but I believe that why don't we let Miss Jackson, if you're nasty, just let us know what she thinks about a pride parade.
All right.
Victoria Jackson. God hates sodomy. He hates homosexuality. He said it's an abomination. And God hates sexual immorality, all kinds, fornication, adultery, etc. And God hates pride. Like one of the most things he hates is pride. Proverbs 11:12. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. And Sodom and Gomorrah proves that God hates sodomy and sexual immorality and pride. And it's still there. And archaeologists have uncovered it. You can go on YouTube and see. It's a frozen city in sulfur and fire and brimstone. Brimstone is sulfur. I just want to encourage this generation not to be brainwashed and to watch Beckett Cook on YouTube. Beckett Cook.
Well, first off, is brimstone actually sulfur? Because
listen, I don't know my my Bible scripture very well,
right.
But I'm just going to, with the level of assuredness that she spoke those words, I'm going to have to assume that it's not.
I mean, I feel like if it's sulfur, why would you then? Oh no, it is sulfur. It is a chemical element with the symbol S and top. So that's the biblical definition of brimstone. All right, fair enough.
There you go. But yeah. So if you were wondering earlier this week, whatever happened to Victoria Jackson, my story of the week updates you that she has absolutely gone batshit crazy. Ron,
all right. Yes.
What story in the news this week really piqued your interest?
So Brian, as we have often covered a lot of the times in our After Dark segment, there is a lot of teachers in this country that seem to have sex with their underage students. Well, the New York Post pointed out to us this week that at least 6 female teachers were arrested for sexual misconduct with students over 2 days across the United States. So many so that we had to put together just a quick slideshow of mugshots. This first one, this is Ellen Schell, age 38. She is from Kentucky, I believe. She was arraigned after prosecutors said that she had sex with 2 teens on 2 separate occasions in July and August of last year. She worked as a teacher's aide at one elementary school and was employed at another elementary school prior to that. This is Heather Hare. She is from Arkansas. She was expected to turn herself in Friday for an alleged sexual relationship with a teen student and is now facing a first-degree felony assault case.
Okay.
Next up, we have Oklahoma teacher
Oklahoma. Sorry
Emily
about that.
Hancock. She was arrested Thursday after local police were tipped off to her alleged relationship with a student. She allegedly began communicating with the teen in late October and eventually began sending the 15-year-old nude photos. The pair eventually had illicit relations on school property. Next up, this is Kristen Gant, 36, an English teacher at a Catholic high school in Des Moines, Iowa. She was arrested for allegedly having sex with a teen student 5 times inside and outside her school. Investigators say Gant groomed the student over social media and that surveillance cameras caught them going into a classroom alone with a papered over window. She has since been fired and will now answer to felony counts of sexual exploitation. Brian, this is Allie Cardamand, 33, a teacher at James Madison High School in Virginia. She was nabbed with allegedly having sex with a student over the course of several months. She is a learning disabilities teacher with Fairfax County Schools since 2016, and she is being charged with 4 counts of indecent liberties and is being held without bond. And finally, in Pennsylvania, this is javelin coach Hannah Martin, who allegedly had sex with a 17-year-old boy she coached. She was arrested after police learned she had engaged in a sexual relationship with the Northampton area high school track and field athlete. The 26-year-old sent the teen a text in May 2021 and invited him to her home, where the two allegedly had sex.
It's almost like there's an epidemic.
But it's the drag queens, Brian, that you
Of course it is.
need to keep away from our children.
It is is it not?
Clearly, because we have so many stories each week of drag queens having sex with students.
That is the problem. This is what we are facing. It is you sit there, and as a parent in this country, you send your children to school. You expect them to get shot that day by a mass shooter. You hope that the teachers are willing to, dive in front of your child to take that bullet. I mean, even though we know an AR-15 bullet goes right through the human body into the one that they're trying to protect. So we understand that. But that your child runs the risk of a stabbing or a shooting in school. But the one thing you just you can't protect your children from enough is sexual advances from teachers. These female teachers, they're graduating with a degree in education, and immediately they're going off to middle school and high school, assigned jobs as teaching, and just sitting there saying, all right, which one of these students am I going to have sex with this semester?
Well, Brian, getting back to politics, which we rarely do, we do have a follow-up from the Tennessee House of Representatives story that we went over last week. As expected, Tennessee Representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson were reinstated by their local county boards and sworn back into the House of Representatives. So basically, GOP doing nothing as usual. And audio has now been leaked about Tennessee GOP members complaining that they're labeled racist now.
Sure, because when they
feel it's unfair.
There were three lawmakers in Tennessee that they had issues with during the anti-gun protest. 2 were black, one was white, and they kicked out the 2 black gentlemen and kept the white woman. Right. And then somehow afterwards, they're like, why are we being called racist?
And what is also interesting is the Tennessee Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, may be violating residency rules. He is His child attends school in Nashville, which is 2 hours away from his home district. So they are currently looking into that. It's interesting because his actual, if he does live in Nashville, then Representative Pearson would actually be his representative.
Isn't irony beautiful?
It is. There's just something chef's kiss poetic to it.
Yes,
without a doubt.
right. I'm okay with that.
Yes,
Maybe he should get kicked out.
Well, they're trying, and shockingly, there is a Christian organization in Tennessee that has gathered 12,500 votes, asking for, or not votes, signatures on a petition to get him to resign.
Really?
Really?
Oh, that would be amazing.
I shit you not.
Is there any way we can sign, or do you have to be from Tennessee?
I don't know. We'll have to see if it's anywhere online. So we were going to try and stay away from politics this week, Brian, but I think it just kind of.
I feel like last week was just too heavy. It was too heavy of an episode.
Maybe we will try and get through them as quickly as possible. First, let's go down to Texas, where Republican Texas State Representative Brian Slayton allegedly invited an underage intern over to drink and then gave her something he referred to as a loyalty test. There is a photo of Representative Slayton right there. So according to an internal complaint, Slayton, who is married, allegedly called the intern after 10 p.m. on Friday, March 31st, and invited her to his Austin apartment. Two of his fellow Republicans, surprisingly, have now called on him to resign.
Really?
Yes.
I'm okay with all this.
A legislative staffer filed the complaint after finding out about the rendezvous. Per the complaint, Slayton comes fairly close to blackmailing the intern. He allegedly showed her fake emails that he claimed contained information about their meetup days later and then told her not to talk about it.
Really?
With some people calling it something of a loyalty test.
What?
Well, I guess he was trying to see. So they were fake emails. Like at that point, no one knew about their, and so he was testing her saying, hey, someone's sending these emails. I need you to not talk about it. So, yeah. This is also
just your standard piece of shit behavior.
So now this is also the same individual who introduced a bill, HB 4129, that would ban drag shows with minors present. And also tweeted back on January 20th of this year in regard to drag shows that no one has the right to victimize a child by subjecting them to grooming. We're just going to let that just kind of sit, kind of waft in the air a little bit.
It feels wrong.
There it's problematic, I think, is the term that we will often use.
Yeah, I think so. That just feels wrong to me.
That may not be the worst thing this week, Brian. We're going to jump over to Missouri, where State Senator Mike Moon is going viral for comments he made Tuesday while arguing for a bill he introduced to ban gender-affirming care for the state's transgender teens. When the Republican lawmaker was pressed by State Representative Peter Meredith about a different bill Moon voted against in the past, which would make it illegal for adults to marry children, the GOP lawmaker doubled down on his support for underage marriage. He said, quote, "Do you know any kids who have been married at age 12? I do. And guess what? They're still married."
That is not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's not okay.
In 2018, he opposed a passed law that raised the state's marriage age from 15 to 16 and required older teenagers to get parental permission.
Which is fine. That's fine with me.
Which part? The 16?
I'm kidding. No, none of it. It is. I find it just so absolutely creepy. The behavior that these Republicans in power are, they're on the news. They are giving speeches about how we have to protect the children and how the children and the children. And then on their voting record, it shows that they genuinely have no interest in protecting children. All they really want to do is they just want to hit hot button topics and then just keep moving on from one to another in the hopes that nobody's actually paying attention to what they're actually voting for. I mean, it genuinely feels as if, as long as a law has been on the books for 40 years, they're just perfectly fine keeping the status quo and just saying that, what was cool in the 1940s should be good today.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I get, a lot of these laws were passed back in the days that we only lived to be like 30 years old. So it made sense to maybe get married around 12 or 14. But it seems problematic. I don't want to keep using that term, but it feels problematic to me.
And I agree with you. It's just kind of weird.
Yes.
And it doesn't sit well with me. Let's put it that way. Just ease it there.
Yeah. Let's jump from politics, Brian, over to the field of law enforcement. Let me share a photo.
Let's move on to something a little bit more lighter.
Sure. One of the men in blue. This gentleman, Brian, his name is Kevin Kovacs. He is a former DARE officer in the Dayton, Ohio area, and he made the news this past week for being sentenced to over 15 years in prison for child pornography crimes. He was arrested in April of 2020. He pled guilty in February of 2022 to transporting and possessing child pornography and was then sentenced to 181 months in prison for 2 federal child pornography crimes. According to court documents between April of 2015 and July of 2017, Kovacs uploaded over 2,500 images and videos depicting child pornography to his Dropbox accounts. These videos featured the sexual abuse of children as young as toddler age. Court documents also show that one video depicted a toddler lying on a diaper whose arms and legs were bound by black tape. But again, Brian,
this is not okay.
It's the drag queens.
It's the drag queens. Of course it is. Listen, we've been talking, Ron, we have been talking about this for, I'm saying at least 17 years. It's not the people who are actively trading child pornography. It's not the grown men trying to marry 12-year-old girls. Those are not the kids that we need to protect. It's the kids who are sitting there at age 4 who really, the high point of their day is story time, and it just happens to be told by a man dressed as a woman. I mean, that's the greatest tragedy in this world.
Jumping over to New Mexico, New Mexico police making news by shooting and killing a man after they mistakenly knocked on his door to investigate a domestic violence incident. 3 officers from the Farmington Police Department in northern New Mexico knocked on Robert Dotson's door, even though they questioned dispatchers as to whether they were at the correct address. Dotson answered the door with a gun in hand, pointing it at the cops, who immediately opened fire, killing him. Police were actually supposed to be responding to a 911 call from 2 doors away.
And I'm going to assume that this man was African American.
This was shockingly, in a plot twist no one would see coming. The cops killed a white guy this time.
Are you telling me that police officers are also capable of killing innocent white men as much as they're capable, as they seem to be so good at killing innocent black men?
Yes. The 3 unidentified officers are on paid leave pending investigation.
Okay. I mean, they're at the wrong house, correct?
They're at the wrong house, and there is audio from the 911 operator where they are questioning whether they are at the right house or not before going and knocking at the door.
That feels problematic. Hey, should we be here? I'm not sure. well, let's go pull out our guns and just make and take out anybody in the area.
Right.
Problematic, very problematic.
Brian, this next story, I think we're going to have to call this a twofer, because let me pull up this this photo here. Hold on one second. So the woman on the right, that is Emma Hancock. She may be one of the ones we talked about earlier. She is the daughter of an Oklahoma mayor, and she is the wife of the town's chief of police. That's that gentleman on the left in that big old cowboy hat.
Big old cat. That is a 12-gallon hat.
So yes, she was actually one of the ones we talked about earlier. So she is arrested for allegedly touching a 15-year-old student she met while substitute teaching. She texted the student asking for a copy of a school assignment. Several weeks later, the boy allegedly sent the substitute teacher a shirtless picture of himself through Snapchat. Quote, "Are we sending half-naked pictures now?" Hancock responded. The teen replied, "I don't know, are we?" And then Hancock allegedly said, "Are you trying to get me to lose my job?" The teacher and student began exchanging nude photos and sexually explicit videos before engaging in 2 separate physical encounters.
So she was up for it.
Clearly, she was concerned at first, but the 15-year-old must have been spitting so much game that she decided to risk everything.
Jesus, that's creepy.
You think it's a little creepy?
Okay. See, and this is the thing, and obviously, it's I'm a part of a different age group here.
Sure,
I'm a little bit older, but I don't understand the confidence of sending a unrequested topless photo.
Yeah.
And this is obviously, you can just see the my thought process here. But to me, if I were to send a topless photo, a shirtless photo, we'll call it, a shirtless photo, say to a coworker, my brain immediately goes to, they're going to open up the phone, they're going to go, ooh, then they're going to go, I work with this guy. Next thing you know, they're going to be showing it around the office to everybody that I work with. I don't want that to happen. So therefore, I don't even consider sending a shirtless photo. Here you have a kid who somehow, and this is the suspicious part, how is she knowing to reach out to a student on Snapchat?
I'm not quite sure why they would have each other's Snapchat.
Nowadays with schools, each student has a school email address that you can reach out to them on. There's no need to be connected with students on social media. So I'm already uncomfortable with that level of comfort. But to then go a step further and send your teacher a topless photo. First off, let's be brutally, the next comment, and I'm not saying any of this is okay, but I don't think I had a teacher that I would have wanted to have sex with when I was in school.
Okay.
Maybe in college, I had some, teacher's assistants that I thought were cute, but I don't believe when I was in junior high, any of those were all 50-year-old women. And I'm not saying that 50-year-old women are not sexually attractive, just not when I was 11.
It wasn't quite your type back then.
No.
All right. Well, staying in the schools, Brian, going to our favorite state, Florida. A psychology high school teacher in Florida was recently fired after delivering a lesson in which he made students write their own obituaries. Jeffrey Keene was a teacher at Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando and was fired over a lesson plan in which he asked students to write their own obituaries in an effort to teach gun safety. He asked the class to put themselves into an active shooter situation, which would help them write about dealing with morality as if they were dealing with a hypothetical event. But he did say, he included a disclaimer at the bottom page of the lesson, reminding students that, quote, "This is in no way to upset you."
Okay, well, first off, saying this is in no way to upset you is not automatically saying it's not going to upset you. What I don't get is, have we reached the level of snowflake where you are not allowed to talk about death with students? You're not allowed to acknowledge that at some point you're going to die? I mean, I no offense, but I remember this exercise as a kid.
Do you?
Yeah, it was just like, okay, now imagine that, that you have passed away many years from now. How do you want to be remembered? And I know what it really was. It was an exercise in document what you think your life is going to be. Are you going to be married? Will you have kids? What will your job be? What level of success will you have? Those were the types of things that they were trying to find out about the kids back then. I don't understand why a teacher should be taken out of the classroom over this.
I agree. I mean, apparently a student reported Keene's lecture to a counselor, who then spoke with a supervisor, which resulted in Keene's firing. They gave Keene the option of resigning without violating your contract. He didn't think he did anything wrong.
Yeah.
So they fired him. And so he is going to be appealing his termination. And you would say he'd probably win, but this is Florida, and it's fucked up in Florida.
Didn't you and I write our own obituaries on this show, or was it our suicide notes? I thought it was if we committed suicide, how would we? What would our note be? I think that's what it was.
We wrote our obituaries. Maybe we.
I remember we did.
Who knows? We've done a lot, Brian. This is episode 253. We have covered a lot of material in the last 5 years.
The thing I remember about it, and I that's why I'm leaning towards suicide note, is that you went funny. You wrote a very funny one, and I remember laughing to it because it was very humorous. And then I remember I wrote one that was just a genuine suicide note, and it was god-awfully depressing, but it was also very real.
It was dark. It was a little dark. Also dark.
Well, also, I think that was because I wasn't champ.
You weren't champ at that point.
I was, sorry, how dare I hold this upside down? I wasn't champion.
So we're going to stay in Florida, unfortunately.
Florida!
This is a story in the Washington Post this past week that showed how Florida's 15-week abortion ban almost killed a woman, despite the fact that the ban nominally has exceptions in place for the health of the pregnant person. Now, the state is also working to finalize a ban after 6 weeks of pregnancy. So this happens with the current 15-week abortion ban in place. A woman by the name of Anya Cook. She was nearly 16 weeks pregnant when her water broke, long before a fetus could survive outside of the womb. She went to an emergency room in Coral Springs, Florida, where the doctor says she was experiencing a rare complication that occurs in less than 1% of pregnancy called pre-viability premature rupture of the membranes. Once the amniotic sac breaks, there's a risk of infection, which can be life-threatening, even in pregnancies several weeks further along than Cook's. Typically, doctors would induce labor or perform an abortion, but the ER doctor said they couldn't induce her due to the state's abortion ban, so they sent her home. A nurse gave her antibiotics and promised to pray for her. The next day, Cook ended up miscarrying her daughter in the bathroom of a hair salon. Her husband had to sever the umbilical cord by pulling it apart with his hands, and she lost roughly half the blood in her body over the course of the day. She was rushed to the hospital to stabilize her, remove any remaining pregnancy tissue from her uterus. There was a very strong chance that she could have died in the operating room, and she was hospitalized for 6 days.
Fucking, this is just, it's scary.
So at the time that her water broke, her life was not immediately in danger. Had they induced the pregnancy, had they performed an abortion, but the next day, her situation declined to the point where she could have lost her life.
I think that my new I don't give a shit response is going to just be, I'm going to pray for you.
Right.
You know, next time somebody comes to me and says like, I think I'm going to be fired at my job, I'll be like, oof, I'm going to pray for you.
That's a damn shame.
Oh, my doctor thinks I might have a tumor. Oof, I'm going to pray for you.
Going to go pray. Going to give you some antibiotics. I'm going to pray.
I lost my championship wrestling belt, and now I only own 49% of the podcast. Oof.
Prayers.
Going to pray for you. Going to pray for you.
Brian.
I mean, think about it. We do it now when we say thoughts and
Yeah,
prayers.
no, it's very true. Let's try and pick things up a bit, Brian. And I will
Picks
try and
things up.
I will try and lift up people's spirits by asking you one very simple question.
Mhm.
And that's, what are you watching?
Ooh, what am I watching? We did not do this last week, correct?
I'm not sure. We may have, we may not
I
have.
don't know. The Bud Light made it a little hazy. Bud
is
Light did have some alcohol in it. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
I mean, it tastes like water, but it had some. Did we talk about Reggie?
You did actually talk about Reggie. I do remember that.
Perfect. Then this week, first off, continuing with season 4, the final season of Succession. Spoiler alert, people, if you don't want to know what happened in season 4, episode 3, fast forward, because I'm about to announce that Logan Roy dies, the patriarch of the Roy family, with probably 6 or 7 episodes left in the season. So what happens from here can only get better. Also, I watched the 3-episode documentary on Netflix that you turned me on to, American Manhunt, the Boston Marathon Bombers. Ooh, was that good? Watched all 3 episodes. It's the 10-year anniversary this past week, I believe,
Yes.
of the Boston Marathon Bombers. I think we all remember where we were when Anthony Jeselnik tweeted, some days the finish. No, what was it again? What was this famous tweet? Sure. Some days you're not meant to cross the finish line, or some lines are not meant to be crossed. And today it was the finish line. That was the tweet. I believe he lost his Comedy Central show for that tweet, or he lost it for the Shark Party. I don't remember. But this was the famous I believe they were Chechen brothers.
Yes.
Who loaded up 2 pressure cookers with ball bearings and nails, set them off with a timer, exploded them mere feet away from the finish line of the Boston Marathon, and killed many, destroyed the bodies of even more, and basically set the Boston metropolitan area, on edge. I mean, you were literally looking at one of the first times in our lifetime that really, people were locked in their homes.
Yeah, I mean, they did the shelter in place for
Sure.
Watertown, Massachusetts for 2 days. I mean, there were a lot of things that struck me, and not that it needed to be emphasized how horrible this was, but there was a lot of new video that I don't think I had seen before that made it. I think the one thing that sticks in my mind is they had video from the restaurant where the second bomb went off, and it is just packed with people, kids, families, whatever.
Sure.
And they're looking down the street as that first bomb goes off. And they really like you. And now you're looking at these people realizing that they're just seconds away from their lives being changed forever. Because
Yes.
they're literally in the blast zone of that second bomb.
Yeah, it's just a wild story.
Yeah.
The one part I did not like about it was at the beginning, I think, of the 3rd episode. I saw, they put up some text before the show started that some of the closed circuit TV footage that they were going to show had been recreated.
Yes.
And I had watched the first 2 episodes thinking, holy shit, they've got cameras everywhere, and I was just surprised at how much footage that they had on these kids that I hadn't seen. And then realizing afterwards that some of it had been recreated kind of disappointed me, but just a fascinating story. I mean, the older brother, who's kind of viewed nowadays as the mastermind of the bombing, he basically tries to do a suicide by cop. And the cops, in true police fashion, if you're innocent, they'll kill you.
Right.
But if you've set off a couple bombs, shot a police officer to death, and kept a Chinese man hostage in his car against his will, they'll do everything but shoot you to death.
Right.
I think they launched, hundreds of shots, struck him a couple times, but eventually he fell to the ground and was run over by a car driven by his brother, who was trying to evade arrest. I feel that's the greatest piece of karma that's that I feel I've come across in this lifetime.
Right. Well, it almost seems like he was his brother, his younger brother was aiming for the police officers that were handcuffing his brother.
Mm-hmm.
But those cops all jumped out of the way, and then it literally just runs him and drags him like 25 to 30 feet. There wasn't a lot of
sympathy.
There wasn't a lot of times that I chuckled in that documentary, but that one I was like, well, this is actually pretty enjoyable. And
felt pretty good.
And for the cops to describe like how the car like tore his brother's body up, it's like, yeah, you know, I'm actually kind of okay with that.
Yep. You know, he killed a lot of people. He injured even more. There was no sympathy or empathy on his part. So I genuinely am fine with him having a terrible death.
And you do have to give credit to both the FBI and the Boston Police Department for the speed in which they processed, you know, hours of video surveillance, hundreds, maybe thousands of photos sent in. I mean, the fact that they wrapped up the case in 101 hours of the bombing, fairly impressive.
Had this happened in New York, it would have been quicker. Let's be brutally honest. I mean, New York cops are way better than Boston cops. Though there was one guy, one of the main guys that they were talking to, I'm not sure whether he was Boston PD or whether he was an FBI. One of the worst haircuts I've ever seen.
I think that was one of the Boston PD guys. I know the guy you're talking about. The guy who looked like he weighed about 60 pounds.
Weighed about 60 pounds and had one of these like bowl cuts where his hair just came down in every direction at equal lengths. Also, just I know it's going to sound weird. I love listening to the Boston accent.
Oh, without a doubt.
It is such a garbage accent, and yet I can't not listen to it.
Right.
I can't.
Yeah, I wake up, I have a pack of smokes, and I go to Dunk's for a coffee.
Sure. Yeah.
What else are you watching,
Ron?
Yeah.
Ron.
Yes, my friend.
I think that's really all I'm watching. Mandalorian. I think we've got one episode left in this new season. Somebody's watching it on my Disney Plus account. I don't know, because the last couple of episodes I've gone in, the bar has already been all the way at the end. I'm not saying it to you, Ron, because I know you have your own account. I'm just saying somebody's been watching it on my account. And you want to know something? Doesn't bother me in the least.
All right.
I'm happy to share my logins. Ron.
Yes.
What are you watching?
So much like you, we watched the American Manhunt. Again, we just talked about that. No need to repeat it. Keeping up, burning through season 1 of From on Amazon Prime. Still a good show. Lucky Hank on AMC Plus, the new Bob Odenkirk show. Excellent.
Oh, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you change your AMC Plus account?
I don't have the AMC Plus account anymore.
So how are you watching it? Or are you getting screener copies?
I'm getting screener copies. Vince Gilligan reached out, connected with me.
Enough said.
Started watching Beef on Netflix with Ali Wong and Stephen Yeun.
What did you think of that? I got it through one episode and turned it off.
I would give it a second episode. I would say the first episode was kind of uneven, kind of picks up. You get a little more character development. The story pushes along.
Okay.
I will stick with it. Also watched the first couple of episodes of The Last Thing He Told Me on Apple TV with Jennifer Garner and the guy who played Jaime Lannister on Game of Thrones, based on a true story. So it's about a woman who has to go on the run with her stepdaughter after her husband disappears after the tech company he's working for gets raided as like a Ponzi scheme. And so it's only 2 episodes in, a lot of twists and turns so far, but I think watch this.
Why is she on the run?
Because she doesn't know who to trust, Brian. She can't find her husband. Things that she thought she knew, she didn't know. So she's got to protect her stepdaughter because her husband left a note that just said, protect her.
Oh, protect her. Now, if she, with that type of instruction, if she comes across a drag queen, what do you think Jennifer Garner would do?
Have to run in the opposite direction.
Valid.
All right. Let's see. What other stories do we have here? This was one. This was a story. Of course, New York Post all over the board with the stories that they'll throw up. But
Mhm.
this is about a plus size traveler demanding free seats and better
Yes.
accommodations on airlines. Led to some, discussion, some civil, some not on the
Mhm.
internet. But this is J. Lynn Cheney from Vancouver, Washington. She started a change.org petition saying demand for the FAA to protect plus size customers, detailing several demands to ensure larger passengers can fly without issues. She kicked off the petition claiming that she and her fiance were subjected to discrimination on a recent flight from Pasco, Washington to Denver, which roughly takes just over 2 hours. She claims other passengers refused to sit
Mhm.
next to them, with the pair receiving, quote, hateful comments and disapproving looks while traveling. She wrote it was not the first time that she felt discriminated against while flying. She said, on another flight, I was forced to occupy only one seat with immovable armrests that caused me pain and bruises, citing that when she and her fiance purchased extra seats on their own, they are still mistreated by other passengers and airline staff.
So she's saying that she will buy two seats together
Correct.
on a plane.
Yes. So she's saying the FAA must,
That's
it
expensive.
can be, especially these days. She's saying the FAA must require all airlines to implement a clear customer size policy that prioritizes the comfort and well being of all passengers. Seems kind of reasonable.
No,
Um,
but that's not the case. I mean, no offense, but the whole movement of the airline industry has been to provide less and less space
oh,
to
yeah.
pack on more and more seats per flight so that they can make as much and much money. Um, I'm not sure that she is going the most sympathetic route. Saying that we need to respect plus size people. I think she's got a better stance saying that it's just inhumane across the board
Right.
what they're now asking people to do and coach.
Well, and so I think where she seemed to lose a lot of people online is where she said, quote, all plus size passengers should be provided with an extra free seat or even 2 or 3 seats, depending on their size, to accommodate their needs and ensure their comfort during the flight.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that is where you lose me. Sitting there saying that because she's plus size, she should buy one ticket and then get two seats. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I do think that we as a nation do need to sit there and address that. We are getting bigger. Americans
Right.
are getting bigger. The airline industry is pretending that we've gotten smaller while we absolutely have gotten bigger. Other industries have made accommodations. I know that the concert industry has created general admission where there are no seats, so people can stand. So this way, nobody is needing extra seats. And I know restaurants have put out they don't put out flimsy seats anymore. They are now double. Can you please stop me? I mean, at what point are you not just
It's very
Jesus?
difficult for me to tell when you want me to stop a rant and let it go. But so just to kind of touch on what you were saying, the FAA currently has no seat size requirements for airlines, with the average seat width in economy travel being 17 inches. And 30 inches of leg room when a seat is pitched back. I would say that
Nobody is that's absolutely
I would say
asinine.
that can't accommodate 80% of the population at best.
Didn't they recently show some seats of what the airlines were proposing, which
Oh
was
yeah.
one layer of seats and then another row of seats right literally above them?
Yep. Her petition also calls for larger size bathrooms for plus size travelers. I think we all could use a larger bathroom. It's even for
Listen,
me, the bathroom's too small.
I'm going to say this. If you are walking into a bathroom and you need to sit down, women, that's going to be all the time. Men, that's going to be 50% of the time. But sometimes you do like to sit down, even for a number one. The handicap stall is like it's like a 5-star hotel. It's the Ritz Carlton of toilets. You literally just there's so much space.
Well,
You're comfortable there.
She even mentioned that there isn't really a handicap stall on planes, and that
No.
airplanes should have at least one wheelchair accessible restroom, which you can't argue with.
Well, I mean, I think the argument across the board is just that the airline industry has put their heads in the sand in terms of the reality of the physical size of an air traveler. And at some point, and maybe this is the woman to start the conversation, but at some point, it is as a human being, you do have to sit there, push back, and say, this is terrible.
Right. Yeah, I have no argument with that. And again, it's all about money. It's all about these being publicly traded companies.
Sure.
And if people are willing to
corporate profits, what it's
Right.
all about.
Because what would just happen is, if you're on a plane where it's 3 seats on each side, and they were to go to 2 seats, all that would end up happening is everybody's fares would just increase. If
Sure.
they've got to make, let's say it's $1,000 for those 3 seats, they're going to make that $1,000. So,
But Ron, I'm not even
arguments that
saying
can be
that's a
made either
terrible.
way.
I'm not saying that's a terrible idea. I might not. I mean, truth be speaking, could I afford a ticket that's 50% more than what I'm currently paying? That's going to make it tough. I probably would not be able to fly very much. And yet, at the same time, it's not the worst of ideas. Would I pay more for a larger seat? You're goddamn right, which is why I go for business or economy
Business or
plus
first class, you
or
kind of
whatnot.
have those options. But yeah,
Well, you
not
have
everybody has those
the option of first class. You have the option of first class, Mister.
Do I?
I'm so wealthy. I live in the Philadelphia suburbs. I don't have to live in Kensington. I don't live in Northwest Philadelphia. I live in the suburbs. Bill Cosby's my neighbor. He hosts dinner parties every Saturday night for the wife and I.
I have to say, I've never been to a Bill Cosby dinner party. I would like to just throw that out there.
Would you? You wouldn't go now, but would you have gone before the accusations?
I mean, not knowing the accusations, sure. I was a Bill Cosby fan back in the day, back in the 80s.
You weren't afraid that he would just lecture you on, how you could be a better man in society?
I mean, those are the risks you take sometimes, Brian.
Do you think he would tell you to pull your pants up?
Probably. I always wear my pants high, right to where they need to be. I don't let my ass sag.
I do like a good high pants. Mm.
So Brian, we've covered a lot here. We've said a lot.
We have.
I think we're close to wrapping this up, and we are getting ready to move on over behind the paywall. That's right. We are going to be going to Ron and Brian After Dark starting at 9:30. That is for our Patreon subscribers at the bronze level or higher. Still plenty of time. If you want to come join us, you just go to ronandbrianpodcast.com, click in the upper right-hand corner to become a patron, and you can join us live at 9:30. We've got some sexy stories lined up later on. It's going to be a good night.
We didn't even talk about the Dalai Lama.
No, Dalai Lama asking a child to suck his tongue. That ended up not even making the list.
Didn't even warrant it, people. That's the level that we care about this show. Maybe we save the Dalai Lama for After Dark.
There we go. Should we give them a little teaser as to what they can expect next Sunday right here on the actual podcast at 8:00?
This is your baby. This is I feel this reveal is really this was this was something we were trying for 250. Matt had I feel like he dropped the ball because of his voracious cocaine addiction.
Right.
Had Matt maybe been sober during that period, we might have been able to make this happen during episode 250. Unfortunately, it didn't. Therefore, it's going to happen on episode 254. But Ron, what's going to happen?
So this has been literally in the works for years now. But next Sunday night, right here, 8:00 Eastern time on this very podcast, we will be featuring musician, actor, author, artist, Mr. Dave Hill will be joining us next Sunday night. We are excited about this. We hope everyone out there is as excited. We hope Dave
Hold
is
on.
as excited.
Does the crowd have a reaction?
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. Yep, makes sense that they would be their reaction. Anything up in the DJ booth? Yep, exactly. So we are excited.
Dave Hill, comedian extraordinaire. Dave Hill, episode 254, right here on the Ron and Brian podcast. A week from now, that will be Sunday, April 23rd.
Yep.
Excellent. Anything else, Ron, that you would like to say?
I think we're good. I think we are ready to roll on out and get ready for After Dark. But we do always appreciate you folks for joining us here on the podcast. Brian, anything else you have this week?
Could not thank you enough.
You good? We ready to go?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We will catch you all next Sunday.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com.